Identity is deeper than you think, and it is so important that we understand what your identity is, because that is how you move through life. That is how you make decisions. That is how you step into the roles that are important to you. That is how you build community, and it is how you know you are living a life aligned to your authentic self. And if you aren't clear and comfortable and close with your identity, then you're just kind of making random decisions, and you're not living a life that's like authentically aligned to you, and that's poopy. That's a poopy way to live life. I hope just because this is a car chat, you don't think I didn't have strong intentions. I brought my tripod and everything because I love you guys. I decided to do a car chat about this because I journaled about it, and it's been weighing on my mind. I've been thinking about it a lot, especially as my 27th birthday approaches. I want to get real cozy with my identity and be comfortable with who I am, and be okay if it ruffles some feathers every once in a while. But first we gotta discuss what identity is not. It is not your personality. It isn't your job titles. It isn't the roles you fill as a person, like mother, daughter, book club leader, what have you. It isn't your relationships. It isn't like your little quirks, or even like your religion. That's not your identity, okay? Those are like roles and things that your identity helps you navigate and helps you choose. And your identity leads you to these things often, but it is not your identity. Now, it's important to separate the two, because a lot of times like a label like motherhood, like being a mom is so important to me. It is like the main thing in my life right now. But if I made that my identity, rather than I have an identity of my core values and my morals, and that dictates how I lead and fulfill my mother role. Sorry. Then if I'm leading with the identity as mother, that can mean so many different things, because there's so many different ways to mother. But if I'm untapped or unaware of what my identity is, I would just be making random decisions and trying my best. You know what I mean? But if I'm unfamiliar with what I really care about, what my core values are, I could make decisions in parenthood that don't align with what I really genuinely want to do. I could make mistakes that are so far off from my authentic, genuine way of living that it doesn't even make sense. And so that's why identity is important, because the roles that really matter to you, the things that you really care about, the community that you love, the people that you love, they will experience you through how you act via your identity. And that's why it's really important to define what that is and to get comfortable with it. So yeah, that's why it's an important topic today. So 2 things real quick. Your personality is how you express yourself, and your values is what you stand on. So your personality, you could be shy and quiet, or loud and boisterous, but still have the same morals, right? Your morals don't change. That stays the same, but your personality might shift and change. And your morals might even change if you learn something new, or you have a big life-changing experience. But to a major degree, your morals are supposed to be kind of the major steady things in your life. So your core values or your morals might be I really value honesty, and I really value compassion. And so those don't change to fit a room, but your personality might, if you're at a job versus you're at home comfy with your friends or something, your personality might shift. That doesn't mean you yourself are lying. It's just your personality needs to fit the context of where you are, but your morals don't change, right? At work, you're still honest, you're still compassionate. At home, you're still honest, you're still compassionate. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to explain this to you like you're a child, but it's little things that make a difference in understanding this. Another important thing of identifying your morals and values is because if that is your identity, then let's say religion is just the easiest thing to explain, but this can be less serious or more serious. But if you identify as a member of a church, or you identify with a church, that is totally fine, because it's this church aligns with my identity and my morals. But if you identify as the church, then your individual self doesn't exist. And then if a major like a big group of people in that church make a decision that you actually morally or like personally don't identify with, you're like, that doesn't align with like how I authentically, genuinely see the world, or they're making decisions I wouldn't make. That if you are identifying as the church, you won't make a separate decision because you're identifying as the whole, not as an individual. But if you identify with the church, you can be like, I still agree with all of this, but this individual decision does not align with my morals, and so therefore I'm going to make a different decision. And this is important. The church aspect is just more important because a lot of times I feel like, because it's such a big part of people's lives and it's like a spiritual topic, it's more serious and people feel more like this is my identity, which makes sense. And it's such a small, like different words. Can't remember them. It's such a minuscule difference, but it's very important, okay? Because having the individual moral compass, because people are people, you know, it doesn't matter what group you're in, whether it's a book club, a religion, you're a Costco member, you know, if you're identifying as the whole, people make weird decisions, you know what I mean? And so if you're just following the crowd, you're not like living authentically to aligned with yourself. And you might make decisions or like not stand up or not speak up or do something that you don't agree with, and you wouldn't have done that if you were alone. You know what I mean? And when you're not living authentically, that just messes up your whole vibe, you know? Okay, now that we have the basic groundwork covered, how do your values dictate your daily life? Well, every choice is actually a values-based choice, right? So your values shape what relationships you tolerate, what opportunities you accept, what decisions you make. And like, for example, if you value peace, your choice would be to move away from chaos or people that are constantly involved in chaos. That doesn't mean you're mean or disrespectful or like think that these people are inherently wrong. But if you value this thing, you won't hang around with these people, right? Like, because they are constantly bringing something that takes away what you personally value. So it would be like, I value reading. And if you just hang out with people that think reading is the dumbest thing ever, you're never going to get what you want with that group of people. And they're also going to like hate the shit out of you because all you want to do is read. And they don't care about reading. You know what I mean? It's bad for both groups of people. Or if you value growth, you'd be willing to make the decision to be uncomfortable. Or if you value approval, you will like abandon yourself. You know what I mean? So your values can even be bad and harmful to you. So if you that's why you got to analyze, like, what am I valuing? What am I wanting from life here? Because if you value things that are harmful to you, you will repetitively abandon and hurt yourself. So that's why it's important to like really think on that. What are you valuing in life? But at the end of the day, your life is like physical evidence of your internal values, and it will show on paper what you valued. It's kind of like when rich people say they're going to do one thing, like they say, I value compassion or like all these good values, but on paper they have consistently chosen to be unkind or like climb up the ladder in a greedy way. Like, that is showing what they actually value, which is like money, wealth. And that, like, that's fine, but I'm just trying to say that, like, no matter what, your life will reflect what your values actually are, not what you want your values to be. Does that make sense? So you've really got to lock those in. This leads me to want to talk about, like, if you are feeling lost in life, this can just mean you're not actually lost, you're just misaligned. So even if your life looks good, like you're successful, you're well liked, you have a big community, like you have all the talking points of someone who would be happy and feel like good in their life, but you feel lost or you feel like something's wrong, it's just that you're misaligned with things that you actually value. Like, maybe you built a community based off something you didn't value, or maybe you're successful but you had to abandon something that you really cared about to be successful, you know? And it doesn't even have to be like big traumatic moral conundrums. It can just be like you're saying yes when you really want to say no. That's like inauthentic. And that doesn't mean you don't do things sometimes that you don't necessarily, or you're not excited about. But if your value is like, I care about kindness and compassion in a friendship, if they ask you to move, you might be like, oh yeah, I would like to help you move because I care about you, but that's still aligned with you even if you don't really want to move the house, right? Like, saying yes to an activity you're not particularly excited about doesn't necessarily mean you're misaligned either. It just means that, like, if you're saying yes just to say yes, even though everything in you is like, I don't care about this, I don't want to do this, this is making me miserable, that's misalignment. Just, does that make sense? I feel like I kind of butchered trying to say that, but I feel like it's important to note that. Sometimes we say yes when we're kind of like about something, but it's not that that's misaligned. It's the, like, if every fiber in your being is like, I don't want to do this, I don't align with this, and you're like, sure, anyway, that's acting in a misaligned way. Or you're living someone else's version of success. Like, maybe your parents outlined in the best loving intentions, like, what a successful life looks like, and you've reached that, and you're just like, I hate this. And because that's not your version of success, that's your parents' version of success. That's a version of living misaligned from yourself. And the big one obviously is that if you keep abandoning your morals to fit in or fit someone else's expectations, if you keep abandoning yourself, that's what drains you and just makes you feel messed up the most, is when you abandon who you are at your core to please someone or to get something an easier way. That's when you start feeling a little iffy about life and you just want to, like, ignore it. You know what I mean? Note that one, because I feel like sometimes, even especially in the world today, right, there might be a lot of things you're witnessing that your insides go, I don't agree with that, but maybe your neighbor is like, yeah, I support that, and you don't want to cause a rift, so you're like, yeah, me too, and you don't speak up. That's abandoning your internal voice. You know what I mean? And so that's like a small etch into, like, abandoning your morals. That doesn't mean you have to be, like, full-on activist, but that could mean as little as, like, not even just refusing to just agree with them, right? You don't even have to fight them. You can just be like, oh. You know what I mean? But just, like, jumping on board is abandoning your morals. But just maybe just even being like, yeah, I'm not going to, like, agree with you, but you're allowed to have that opinion. You know? That's holding true to your morals, because you're like, I refuse to abandon my morals to just be comfortable in this moment. You know what I mean? Anyway, this leads me to a little bit of homework. I encourage you to journal this week, or even just sit with yourself, and instead of asking, who am I, ask, what do I stand for? Or if you're, like, not even sure, you can even Google a list of, like, core values and see what resonates with you, because you can be like, oh, I like all these values, but, like, what are, like, your top 3 to 5 that are, like, non-negotiable? Like, no matter what situation I'm in, this is important to me. And that can be just the very beginning of, like, oh, okay, so if I picked, say, discipline, kindness, empathy, honesty, and let's just stick with those 4. Even if that's all, even if that's, like, this is my identity right now, is these 4 words. Then when you come up with a decision, you can, like, start working that muscle of, like, does this align with these things? If it's unkind, then I can't do it. Or if it's breaking my, like, discipline in not a fun or, like, helpful way, I'm not gonna do it, you know? It's just, like, working that little muscle. So I encourage you to, like, go find some core values, or if you already know your core values, revisit it and audit your life. Just be like, okay, if I graded my life right now through the lens of these values, am I passing? And this doesn't have to be a judgmental thing. This doesn't even have to be like that serious of a personal homework thing. It just needs to be like, just witness your life right now, do a little bit of an audit, and you just go and just start working on micro correcting it. And that's what I'm working on this year. I am taking a deep breath and being like, what do I value? What are my morals? Who am I when no one's watching? And I'm working the muscle on being that person even when everyone is watching. Because sometimes that can be hard, because sometimes it's against the grain, or it's not what everyone else is doing. So that's the muscle I'm working on, and I want the year that I turned 27 to be the year that I stopped creating my core identity to make other people happy, but to create my core identity to make sure I'm aligned with myself. And then, my personality can, fit whoever's in the room, but I know that I'm always acting from a place where my core identity is mine, and that I agree with, and that I am mentally, spiritually, morally aligned with that core identity, and that I act on it. And I want to, in honor of my Chasing Day Zero project, I want to wake up when I'm 80 and look back and know that I lived a life that was aligned with who I am and not who people wanted me to be. So, anyway, do your homework. I love you guys. Thanks for chatting in the car with me. Hopefully I get back on schedule. The last couple weeks have been kind of crazy for me. I had a birthday boy turn 4, and my body's been doing a couple weird things because it remembers that 4 years ago, postpartum era, I tried to die 1,000 times due to my chronic illnesses. So it's kind of just stressed out right now. I've been tired, stressed. My blood sugars have been crazy. My lupus has been flaring up. Anyway, I'm trying to re-regulate, recenter, and get back into my personal curriculum and get back to my normal content schedule and just get back into it. But thank you for being patient, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you never miss a video. And I will see you next week. Okay.